The night before the wedding, my fiancée Olivia's ex-boyfriend called. I took something. It'll kick in half an hour. If you're not here, I'm sleeping with someone else. I grabbed Olivia's arm, my voice low and dangerous. You walk out that door and I'll ruin you. She threw my hand off, sending me stumbling to the floor. Don't be ridiculous, she said, already rushing out. I let out a cold laugh and dialed the number of her sworn enemy. You free the day after tomorrow? Feel like getting married? Done. I'm grabbing my birth certificate now. At 10 o'clock sharp, a shrill ringtone echoed through the living room. I looked up from my files and glanced toward the bathroom. Olivia was still in the shower. We never kept secrets from each other. Checking each other's phones was normal for us. Besides, the wedding was the day after tomorrow. I was practically her husband. With that thought, I casually picked up Olivia's phone. The ringing continued. It was an unknown number. The moment I answered, I winced at the blast of heavy metal music. Probably a wrong number, I thought. Just as I was about to hang up, a man's voice, choked with sobs, stopped me. Olivia, I regret everything. You're only marrying Ethan to spite me, but you'll end up hurting both of us. Please just ask me to marry you one more time. I'll say yes. I'll be your groom. He finished, and the background noise faded. The line went dead silent. While he was probably holding his breath on the other end, I just found the whole thing absurd. My fiancée's ex-boyfriend, calling the night before her wedding, trying to rekindle an old flame. The guy had some serious nerve and a twisted moral compass. Even more absurd was that Olivia had always told me she'd never been in love before. I clutched the phone, my eyes falling back to the document in my lap, but the words were a blur. Whose call was that? Olivia emerged from the bathroom in a robe, toweling her wet hair as she walked toward me. I stared at her for a moment, then, ignoring her confused look, I put the phone on speaker. Olivia, I'm at the Grand Lux. I took something. If you're not here in half an hour, I'll find another woman to take care of this. Olivia's hand froze mid-towel. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes as she snatched the phone back and hung up. I watched her coldly, taking in every detail of her flustered state. It's probably just Mark and the guys pulling a prank, trying to get me to come out. Don't worry about it. And don't answer calls from strange numbers anymore. Within seconds, Olivia had regained her composure. You go to bed first. It's my last bachelorette party. They'll probably go late. As she spoke, Olivia walked into the closet. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Olivia was famously meticulous and picky. Her outfits had to be perfectly coordinated, down to the earrings and brooches. Even every strand of her hair had its designated place. But now, she didn't even look, just grabbing two completely mismatched items and throwing them on. If you're going to lie, at least put some effort into it. Or do you think I'm an idiot? A photo of Mark with his leg in a cast is still up on his social feed. I haven't heard a word about any bachelorette party until now. A shady call comes in, and suddenly you're rushing off to see your drugged-up old flame? I kept my arms crossed, my tone accusatory. Caught in her lie, Olivia looked uncomfortable. After a moment of struggle, she finally managed a dry response. I'll explain when I get back. I can't just watch him spiral out of control like that. At least not because of me. I'll just take him to the hospital and come right back. It won't affect our wedding. Olivia tried to walk past me, but I grabbed her arm, my gaze sharp. If you go, I'll end you. During our standoff, Olivia's phone rang again. This time it was a waiter from the club. Excuse me, is this Ms. Olivia? Your friend. Hey, sir. Don't take your clothes off. Olivia's breath hitched. She violently yanked her hand free. Stop making a scene. It happened so fast I lost my balance and fell. My arm scraped against the floor, and tiny beads of blood began to surface. I gritted my teeth. Olivia. She turned back, looking like she wanted to help me up, but the phone in her pocket was vibrating nonstop. In the end, she turned toward the entryway and hastily grabbed her keys. All she left me with was, the first aid kit is in the cabinet on the left. Patch yourself up. I'll be back soon. Olivia left without a backward glance. I looked at my scraped, reddened arm, and my eyes turned to ice. I picked up my phone and dialed her arch-nemesis. Arya, clear your schedule for the day after tomorrow. You're marrying me. There was a long silence on the other end, then a sudden curse. You got it. I'm grabbing my birth certificate now. At a red light, Arya glanced over at me for the 8th time. I finally snapped, turning to glare at her. If you have something to say it. Stop dithering. So aggressive, Arya muttered. I was just curious, which hospital were you thinking of going to? After agreeing on the phone, Arya had hung up abruptly. Half an hour later, she was standing downstairs. The first thing she saw when she looked at me was my injured arm. Her brow furrowed for a second before smoothing out. Then she adopted a lazy tone. I had expected her to ask about the whole bride-swapping situation. I had even braced myself for her to get in my face and gloat. I was ready for her mockery, but she took a completely different route. I was speechless. She kept talking as if to herself. We should probably go to Mercy General. Might as well milk Olivia's family's reputation while they still think you're their son-in-law. Just then, the light turned green, and the car merged into traffic. I watched the streetlight streak past and licked my dry lips. Suddenly, I spoke. Get me a front-page feature later. I'm going to live stream. Arya kept one hand on the wheel, while the other fumbled around for a carton of milk. She tossed it into my lap and asked nonchalantly, "Easy enough." Announcing our great love story, a slow smirk spread across my face. My voice was ice-cold. Catching a cheater. The wound was bandaged quickly. By the time we left the hospital, it was nearly midnight. Arya wasted no time driving me to the Grand Lux. She seemed worried I'd change my mind if we waited a second longer. And since she was the owner, she had no trouble finding out which room Olivia was in. I started the live stream as we got on the elevator. The moment the door opened, an intimate scene unfolded, accompanied by a familiar voice. Olivia's breathing was ragged. "Leo, stop it. I'm taking you to the hospital." So her ex-boyfriend's name was Leo. I thought I was calm, but my trembling hands betrayed my inner turmoil. Arya reached out from behind me, her hand steadying my phone for the live stream. On the screen, a wobbly Leo leaned against Olivia, breathing heavily and smiling. "You came. I knew you couldn't let me go. When I saw the news about your wedding, I went crazy. I skipped my competition and flew back immediately. You're only marrying that guy, Ethan, because his mouth looks like mine, because he likes to paint like me, and because he loves musicals just like me." Leo paused, then laughed triumphantly. "Admit it. You've always loved me, and I love you too." Olivia didn't say a word. She just wrapped an arm around Leo's waist, pushed him against the wall, and kissed him hard. Suddenly, my world went dark. It was Arya. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Don't look. It's filthy." Arya ended the live stream, which was already exploding with comments, and gently led me out of the room. The hallway lights were bright, illuminating the righteous indignation on her face. She was still muttering curses, more worked up than I, the actual victim, was. I found it amusing and, at the same time, felt a warmth spread through my chest. I patted her shoulder. "What are you so angry about? Let's just see how this plays out." Everyone in our circle knew that Arya and Olivia were at each other's throats the moment they met. No one knew why. All they knew was that Olivia had always been the perfect child everyone was compared to. One day, Olivia would get Arya in trouble with her family. The next, Arya would find a way to publicly humiliate her. So when Arya showed up at the wedding as the bride, the entire hall fell silent. "Do I need to personally cue the MC?" Arya raised an eyebrow, a half-smile playing on her lips as she looked at the host. And now, let's welcome our beautiful bride." I slipped the ring onto Arya's finger. When it was her turn, the doors to the banquet hall burst open. I thought it would be Olivia, but instead, it was Mark, leaning on a crutch. Arya slid the ring onto my finger with lightning speed. I was forced to tear my gaze from the door and found myself looking into a pair of bright, smiling eyes. "Wait, isn't this supposed to be your wedding with Olivia?" After the ceremony, Mark sidled up to me, his eyes still wide with shock. "Your dear Olivia was busy. Who knows, maybe she's still in her old flame's bed." I was smiling, but there was no warmth in my eyes. Impossible, Mark retorted instinctively. Everyone knows how much she cares about you. Last year, when you two were kidnapped, she gave you the chance to escape. She's had feelings for you for ages. The year you went abroad for your exchange program, she was always making up excuses for business trips just to see you. She was so worried you wouldn't get used to the food there that she learned to cook. For years, she's only ever cooked for you. I had no interest in reminiscing. I cut Mark off before he could sing any more of Olivia's praises. She gave me the chance to escape because her own leg was broken. She needed me to get out and find help for her. And those business trips? It just so happened that Leo was in the same country. I was the one she was visiting on the side. I had only found that out yesterday. As for her cooking, she's in the kitchen maybe 10 times a year. Who exactly do you think she's doing that for? I've done plenty of stupid things for her, too. Don't even try to guilt-trip me. Ever since we were kids, I had been Olivia's little shadow. In middle school, I skipped class for her and threatened any boy who got too close. I was so focused on her that my grades plummeted. My parents couldn't stand it anymore and sent me abroad, and I didn't come back until college. I didn't want to say more. I just projected last night's recording for him to see. From the moment the hotel room door opened to the sounds of their intimate entanglement, Mark shut his mouth and slinked away. Leo's appearance was like a set of claws, tearing away Olivia's polished facade. It let me see the rot underneath. That night, after a shower, I was lying on my stomach in bed, wearing pajamas. A message popped up on my screen from my best friend, Ben. You have no idea how satisfying the comments online are. The White family stock has completely tanked. But why Arya? And she actually agreed to help you. Did you guys, My fingers tapped out a reply. They're mortal enemies. Of course she'd jump at the chance to screw Olivia over. It's just an act. No way we'd actually hook up. I never got to send the message. A hand reached down from above and snatched my phone away. I turned my head to see a completely naked Arya leaning over me. She swiped a finger across the screen, glanced at the messages, and tossed the phone aside. Then she lowered her head to gaze at me, one eyebrow slightly raised. From my angle, I could see her graceful neck, delicate collarbones, and the beautiful lines of her body. Any lower, and I hastily averted my eyes. I cleared my throat, trying to sound calm. You're dripping water on me. As I tried to push her away, my pajama top slipped. It exposed my broad shoulders and a wide expanse of my firm chest. Arya's eyes instantly darkened. She pinned my hands above my head. Who said I was acting? She murmured. Now just be a good boy and take it. After a night of frenzied passion, I was so exhausted I fell asleep right away. When the phone rang, I was only vaguely conscious. I thought I heard Olivia's furious voice yelling, "You dare touch Ethan?" The day after the wedding, I was shaken awake. I opened my eyes to a beautiful face right in front of mine. I jolted in surprise, and the sharp movement sent a pang through my sore muscles from the night before. "Morning, babe. Don't go back to sleep. We've got urgent business today." Her husky voice whispered in my ear, sending a tingle straight to my scalp. To make matters worse, she gently nibbled on my earlobe. The chaotic images from last night flooded my mind. The thought made me shudder, and I gritted my teeth. "Let go. Don't call me that. Okay, honey." Arya switched gears so seamlessly it made me suspect her previous term of endearment was just a feint. A thought suddenly occurred to me. "Don't you have to go to work?" At that, Arya shot me a look. "You've already forgotten what you promised me last night?" Last night, the enemy's assault was too fierce. My defenses were breached, and I was forced to sign an unequal treaty. Get up and get dressed. We're going to City Hall. That's right. Last night, Arya had forced me to agree to get our marriage license. From the very beginning, I had told her this wedding was just a signal of our partnership. She didn't actually need to go steal her birth certificate. Arya had agreed with surprising ease. Sitting in the car, I suddenly felt like prey that had willingly walked into a hunter's perfectly laid trap. With 4 parts suspicion, 3 parts shock, and a dash of bewilderment, I asked Arya, You don't actually like me, do you? Of course I do. You're just now figuring that out? Arya's answer was so natural that it took me a moment to process. Who was Arya Shaw? The illegitimate daughter, only acknowledged by her family in high school. Everyone in our circle said the Shaws would just give her a sum of money and send her away once she turned 18. But this was the person everyone looked down on. On her 18th birthday, she took complete control of the Shaw family empire. Her words? Better to just take them with a grain of salt. I warned myself again not to get ahead of myself. Arya went to park the car. I waited for her at the entrance to City Hall. The sun was scorching, and the already oppressive weather was made worse by Olivia's arrival, which added another layer of frustration to my mood. She looked so haggard. Despite the foundation, the dark circles under her eyes were still obvious. Leo was clearly quite a handful. When she saw me, Olivia's dull eyes lit up. It was as if a clear spring had been poured into them, bringing her back to life. I scoffed internally and started to walk away, trying to avoid this walking disaster. The footsteps behind me grew closer. I cursed the fact I was wearing dress shoes today as Olivia caught up to me. She grabbed my wrist, her voice a low plea. Ethan, I know I was completely in the wrong. If I got on my knees and begged you right now, would you forgive me? Olivia looked at me with hope in her eyes. Then kneel. Olivia's grip was surprisingly strong. I couldn't break free. So I just nodded and went along with it. I had agreed so readily that Olivia was stunned for a second. I tilted my chin up. Go on. Kneel. The look in Olivia's eyes was one of deep affection. Ethan, if I kneel, will you really forgive me? If you're going to do it, do it. Stop wasting my time. You don't actually think I'd feel bad for you, do you? My patience was gone. I pried at her fingers, my face filled with disgust. You're stickier than a damn leech. Trash belongs in the trash can. Stop coming out here and polluting the environment. Olivia liked her partners gentle and obedient. To please her, I had always done my best to play that part. Looking back on it now, it was all just a joke. The more I struggled, the tighter Olivia held on. She was even about to try her old trick of forcing me into an embrace to quiet me down. But just as she moved, Arya, who had rushed back, sent her flying with a swift kick. Her eyes were filled with rage, like a dragon whose treasure had been stolen. Get the hell off him, you creep! How dare you touch my husband with your filthy hands? So cool. I fought the urge to cheer out loud. Arya moved so fast. Olivia pressed her tongue against the inside of her cheek where she'd been kicked. Her eyes were vicious, staring daggers at Arya. Honey, you hold on to these. Arya still had the documents in her hand. When she passed them to me, they were perfectly uncreased. In the time it took me to look down, the two of them were at each other's throats like a pair of enraged beasts. By the time Leo arrived, Olivia's face was already bruised. He was immediately heartbroken and turned to blame me. Mr. Wilson, you must be so happy, watching two incredible women fight over you. Does it satisfy your vanity? Because you wouldn't leave her alone? Olivia was forced to be with you, unable to pursue her true love. She was tortured, body and soul, every single day. Now that she's finally free, why do you have to keep pestering her? Can't you stand to see her happy? Leo was wearing a white shirt today, which, paired with his handsome face, gave him the look of a pure, resilient, innocent victim. I could hear the whispers of the people around me. I also saw the corner of Leo's mouth twitch into a subtle smirk. He looked at me with such disappointment. My interest was piqued. Where did Leo get the nerve to lecture me with such a holier-than-thou tone? You must be great at flipping pancakes, seeing as you're so good at twisting the truth. You took my family's scholarship money to go to school, then seduced my fiancé right before my wedding. And now you're slandering me in a public place. You've really got a thick skin. I wish you all the best in getting what you want. Every year, my family donates a large sum of money to charity. Starting in high school, my mother began sponsoring one person in particular. According to my mom, he and I would have a lot to talk about, since our hobbies were so similar. I never imagined that person would be Leo. Thinking about it now, everything, the painting, the musicals, it was all an intentional act on his part. But I went abroad in high school. How did he even know about me? Mr. Wilson, I know you look down on poor people like us. You're used to being praised. You can't handle harsh truths. But you're being a bully. How can you just slander me like that? Leo's indignant tone brought me back to the present. I looked closer and saw tears welling up in his eyes. The scholarship was for your education, not so you could knowingly become the other man and steal what belongs to someone else. I held back Arya, who was itching for a fight, and gently touched the bruise on the corner of her mouth. We can't do this today. Let's go home. As we passed Olivia, she hadn't given up. Her slightly hoarse voice trembled as she spoke pitifully. Ethan, I'm hurt. It really hurts. If this were the past, I would have rushed over to fuss over her. Like last New Year's Eve, when she got drunk and bumped her head on the corner of a table. I had frantically pulled out the first aid kit, dabbing at the wound while scolding her. You know you have a lower pain threshold than most people, yet you're still so careless. Serves you right. Outside the window where the lights of 1,000 homes inside was a warm little world with just the two of us. I had asked with concern, does it hurt? It hurts. Olivia, who had been silent until then, finally smiled, her voice low as she showed her vulnerability to me. Olivia knew how to make me soften up, but times had changed. Olivia, I really have no respect for you. Still trying to play the victim with me? Didn't you hear your little lover complaining about how I bullied him? You did just sleep with the guy last night. You could at least try to protect him a little. Arya chimed in with a laugh. That's because there's always a difference between what's offered for free and what costs a fortune. Seeing me unmoved, Olivia gritted her teeth and turned her attack on Arya. Arya, do you dare tell Ethan how you took over the Shaw family? Do you dare let him know how ruthless and cold-blooded you are? How you used your own mother to get the family fortune, how even the grandmother who raised you. I suddenly lashed out, my palm connecting with Olivia's face. Only after I'd hit her did I feel a sense of release, as if the pent-up frustration inside me finally had an outlet. Olivia stared at me in disbelief. I hadn't thought before swinging. I just knew I couldn't let her say another word. I looked worriedly at Arya's pale face. She seemed to have fallen into some kind of trance. I grabbed her hand and quickly pulled her away. As for what Olivia had said, who cared? The car ride was silent. I wanted to pull her out of her dark mood, but I realized I didn't know much about her. I had only returned from abroad for college and had spent all my time chasing after Olivia. My interactions with Arya were limited to passing her on campus or exchanging polite greetings at banquets. Want a drink? I'll have one with you. I'm sorry. We both spoke at the same time. At a red light, she turned to look at me and smiled. I was planning to take you home to rest after we got the license. My bad for not checking the almanac before we left. I shouldn't have woken you up. I'll take you home to rest. Since Arya was pretending nothing had happened, I wasn't going to embarrass myself by pushing it. At the end of the day, we were just using each other. Arya didn't come home until late that night. When she opened the door and saw I was still awake, she looked surprised. Waiting for me? I rolled my eyes at her, saved my work, and closed my laptop. Arya was shrouded in a damp mist, the ends of her hair still slightly wet. The faint smell of alcohol and tobacco hung in the air. I pointed a finger at her. You stink. You're not allowed in my bed tonight. She leaned against the doorway and chuckled. I won't. I just came to tell you my plans. I have to go on a last-minute business trip. It'll be about a week. After Arya left for her trip, my life didn't change much. The only annoyance was Olivia, who had apparently lost her mind. She was ignoring her company and camping out downstairs, waiting for me every day. One day, I was leaving work as usual, just getting out of the parking garage elevator. A hand suddenly grabbed mine, startling me. It's me, Ethan. Olivia's covetous eyes scanned me from head to toe. What the hell do you want? I demanded angrily. If I had any remaining illusions about her before, now I wanted to carry a knife around with me. For every Olivia that showed up, I'd cut one down. Ethan, I know you and Arya are just acting. You're doing this to make me angry, to get revenge on me. Let's both take a step back. We can forget that we both cheated. Let's get back together. Okay? Looking at this completely changed version of Olivia, I was so stunned by her shamelessness that I almost laughed. Let's get one thing straight. You were the only one who cheated. Arya and I are husband and wife. It's perfectly natural for us to sleep together. Okay, don't be angry. Olivia had an indulgent smile on her face. She looked at me with a sense of helplessness. I mainly came today to tell you that Arya's company has had its funding cut off. Be careful. Don't let her use you. This time, Olivia was decisive. She left as soon as she finished speaking. I sat in my car for a long time, thinking about the truth of her words. Arya's business trip that night had indeed been very rushed. She didn't even have time to pack. As she was leaving, I even heard her say hold him to someone on the phone. The Shaw family had a history of playing both sides of the law. In recent years, they had cleaned up their public image. But who knew what really went on behind the closed doors of a powerful family? Thinking too much gave me a headache. After pulling several all-nighters to win a project, I had finally reached an agreement with the client from overseas today. All that was left was to sign the contract. After some thought, I contacted my assistant and had him switch the business trip to my name. Running away is cowardly, but it works. I spent the next few days relaxing abroad, having a great time. During that time, Arya messaged me to say she was postponing her trip home, but I ignored her. When I landed at the airport, I was still savoring the last moments of my trip. My assistant had already returned to the country and messaged me to say the car for my pickup was arranged. It wasn't until I was in the car that I realized something was wrong. Pull over. I need to buy something. Up ahead was the fork in the road leading to the suburbs and back to the office. There was a small convenience store by the side of the road. The driver ignored me. Sir, please remain seated. In the rearview mirror, the driver was wearing a mask. The eyes that showed above it held a faint warning. A chill went down my spine, and I sat back obediently. I was being kidnapped. A direct confrontation was not the answer. Were they after me, or were they using me to threaten Arya? After all, our wedding had been a huge event. And in the business world, it's impossible not to make enemies. My mental storm came to a screeching halt the moment I saw Leo. I felt a helpless, almost comical sense of resignation. I've looked into you. You're very talented at painting, and your mentor thinks highly of you. You have a bright future ahead of you. Is it worth breaking the law for a woman and staining your own life? I was tied to a pillar trying to reason with Leo. But a man in love doesn't think like a normal person. He pressed a blade to my face. You don't understand. Your parents are in love, your family is happy, and you've been pampered like a prince. You went to elite schools with the newest equipment. You were so dazzling. So he had noticed me even back then. Leo held his hands up in front of my face, forcing my eyes open. See these rough hands? Who would believe these belong to a young man? Harsh places breed harsh people. When I was being beaten half to death, Olivia saved me. In that moment, she was glowing. Someone so refined, she wasn't disgusted by how filthy I was. She gently cleaned my wounds and asked if it hurt. In that moment, I swore to myself that I would become the man standing by her side. For a moment, I didn't know whether to feel sorry for him or hate him. I could guess what happened next. Leo got into school with his excellent grades and found out that Olivia and I were childhood friends. He started by mimicking my every word and action to get Olivia's attention, then gradually let his own personality show through, until he had completely captured her heart. A realization dawned on me. With skills like that, what couldn't you succeed at? Leo scoffed. No woman likes a domineering man. But you're the one I hate the most. He gritted his teeth, every word dripping with hatred for me. Olivia ran out on your wedding, and you're clearly not even pure anymore. Yet you still treat her with indifference. So why does she keep coming back to you? What kind of spell have you cast on her? Because she's pathetic, I said, not hesitating to offer my assessment of Olivia. I thought Leo would argue with me, he seemed so in love with her. But after hearing my words, he froze for a second, then burst out laughing. He laughed so hard that tears streamed down his face. You're right, she is pathetic. But I'm still not okay with it. So I've prepared a little game. Seeing the strange smile on Leo's face, I felt a sense of unease. Leo took out a remote control and pressed a button. The wooden floorboards in a semi-circle around me splintered and broke away, revealing what was underneath. This was a warehouse built over the ocean. One more press of that button, and I would fall into the churning waves. With my hands tied, there would be no chance of survival. I want to see, between you and me, who will Olivia choose? Leo had gone insane. As I watched him walk toward me with the remote, the rickety planks groaned under the added weight. In that moment, I truly wanted to kill Olivia. To hell with her reckless affairs, and to hell with this life or death choice. All I hoped for was that my assistant would notice something was wrong and call the police to save me. Time ticked by. I took deep breaths to stay calm. Leo, let me go. I promise I'll stay far away from Olivia. I can guarantee she'll marry you. See? You're still acting so high and mighty, Leo said, not falling for it. His laughter echoed through the empty warehouse, making my hair stand on end. If Olivia chooses me, you die. If she chooses you, then I'll take you down with me. You're a lunatic, I spat. Suddenly, the sound of many hurried footsteps came from the entrance. My eyes lit up with hope as I stared intently at the first person to walk in. The warehouse doors swung open. It was Olivia. My hope was extinguished. Honey, my emotions were on a roller coaster, more turbulent than they had ever been. Arya's voice at that moment was like music from heaven. Arya. My eyes sparkled as I stared at her. The moment Arya entered, Leo pressed the knife to my throat and started screaming hysterically, because behind Arya stood a dozen bodyguards. Get them out. Get them out. You touch one hair on his head, and I guarantee you'll be dug up and flogged even after you're dead. Olivia's brow furrowed, and she took a step forward. Leo, let Ethan go. I'll go with you to turn yourself in. I wanted to shove Olivia's head into the ocean right then and there. Did she think Leo wasn't agitated enough? Why did I have to pay the price for her stupidity? As expected, Leo's hand tightened. I was forced to tilt my head back, and a sharp pain shot through my brain. It was so intense I could practically see the sweat pop out on my forehead. Leo's face was ashen. Miss Shaw, I was the one who brought you and Ethan together. It's not right to just toss me aside after you've used me. You think you're worthy? Arya shot me a reassuring look. When she turned back to Leo, her eyes were as cold as a corpse's. What do you mean? Olivia, playing dumb at this point is just pathetic. Take her down. Arya's bodyguards were already in position. At her command, they moved. Olivia didn't even have a chance to struggle. You never thought that one night of fooling around would lead to your family's years of dirty laundry being exposed. So you embezzled public funds to cut off my cash flow. 1, you could take me down. 2, you could win back Ethan and use him to fill the hole in your family's finances. The tip of Arya's shiny leather shoe pressed against Olivia's chin in a humiliating gesture. You never expected Ethan to be so resolute, so you had Leo kidnap him so you could play the hero. With the debt of saving his life, even if you couldn't control him, you could at least save yourself. Right, Miss White? Arya looked down at Olivia, her tone chillingly indifferent. Her words were like a hammer blow, clearing the fog in my head. That's right. Some people have no conscience. She doesn't love you, but for her own benefit, she will cling to you constantly. She'll suck your blood, eat your flesh, and when you have nothing left to give, she'll toss you aside without a second thought, and she'll continue to live her glamorous life. Leo and I were both just pawns for Olivia. I glanced over at Leo. He was staring at Olivia with an obsessed look in his eyes. Suddenly, his expression changed. Olivia's arm was dislocated, and a muffled grunt echoed through the warehouse. I admit my intentions weren't pure, but can you honestly say you've treated Ethan right? To get him, you ignored his feelings and set up his fiancée to sleep with another man right before his wedding. He gets kidnapped and you show up right after. You knew it was dangerous but did nothing to stop it. In the end, it was all for your own benefit. How is your love any nobler than mine? Actually, I had my suspicions. I have a tracker on me, but Arya shouldn't have had access to it, yet she found me with perfect accuracy. Faster than the police. But for now, I had to stay silent. I saw a bodyguard silently moving toward me. Just one more step and he could overpower Leo. But in that one step, Olivia saw him. She screamed, "Leo, press the button." Leo was on the same section of the platform as me. If he pressed it, he would fall with me. Olivia didn't care one bit if he lived or died. But Leo was already far gone. Hearing her, he obeyed without a moment's hesitation. I let out an involuntary cry and choked on a mouthful of seawater. The waves crashed over me, pulling me into the sea. Before I went under, I saw the look of terror in Arya's eyes. The air in my lungs was squeezed to a breaking point. I thought I was going to die. My life started flashing before my eyes. I saw a run-down little house in a chaotic, noisy neighborhood. A girl in a blue and white school uniform stood quietly amidst the decay. She had a clean, pure aura. Her eyes were filled with sorrow as she looked at the frail old woman on the bed. My heart softened, and I stepped forward to pat the girl's shoulder. The scene shifted, and I was in a hospital. The girl sat on a bench outside the operating room, her face in her hands, enveloped in an aura of despair. It wasn't until the doctor told her to accept his condolences that she looked up, and I realized it was a teenage Arya. So we had met much earlier than I thought. I had just forgotten. In high school, talking to my best friend, I heard that the Shaw family had taken in an illegitimate daughter. I heard that this daughter, trying to win favor, had personally thrown out her own biological mother when she came looking for her. I hadn't paid any attention to it. It was just gossip. So that was her all along. In a daze, I saw someone jump into the water, a figure swimming toward me. My vision was already blurring. I couldn't make out who it was. When their lips met mine and a familiar scent filled my senses, I knew it was Arya. When I opened my eyes, I was momentarily blinded by the pure white of my surroundings. I closed them again, waiting for the discomfort to pass. I heard a door open and someone sit down by my bed. "Honey, you've been asleep for 3 days. Any longer and you'll turn into a pig." Arya took my hand and pressed it against her cheek. In my head, I was cursing her out. The doctor said if it's more than 4 days, they'll have to shave your head to check for brain damage. But don't worry. Even if you're bald, I'll still love you. At that, my eyes snapped open. I gritted my teeth. "You dare? Done pretending?" Seeing the teasing look in her eyes, I knew I'd been had. All the tests had been done the day I was admitted. I glared at Arya, and she just chuckled softly. Then she gently pulled me into her arms. The gesture was tender and solemn. "Thank God you're okay. Thank God." Her voice was laced with the panic of almost losing something precious. As she held me, the anger in my heart dissipated. Fine. For someone willing to risk her life and jump into the sea for me, she was worth keeping around. She told me Leo had died in the ocean, his body never found. Olivia was sentenced for embezzlement and kidnapping. One thing led to another, and a lot of Olivia's other crimes were uncovered. She would probably spend the rest of her life in prison. She and Leo had conspired to set me up, and they would pay for it. Once I was mostly recovered, I moved in with my parents. From then on, Arya's 2-stop routine between home and work gained a third destination. Every day after work, she would wait at my front door. My mom gave me a light smack on the back of the head. I rubbed it anyway. "Your father and I think Arya is a good kid. She might be a bit ruthless in how she does things, but if she weren't, we'd be worried. You better be careful not to play games and lose her." My mom sat down next to me, and I took the opportunity to pop a strawberry into her mouth. She didn't know about Arya and Leo, and I had no intention of telling her. To be honest, while Arya had her faults, I wasn't exactly a saint myself. When I first had my suspicions, I chose to ignore them for my own benefit. That deal with the overseas client was something I'd secured by riding Arya's coattails. But you have to play your cards right. If you don't push your luck when you can, what's the point? Besides, I pulled a lab report from my coat pocket. "Don't worry, she's not going anywhere." My mom snatched the paper and read it carefully. The smile on her face grew wider and wider, and she forgot her manners, shouting at the top of her lungs, "David, your daughter-in-law is pregnant. she yelled as she walked out the door and brought Arya inside. My mom had already told her on the way in. When Arya saw me, she couldn't hide her excitement. "Honey, stop." I looked up at her. My mom had already gone upstairs to find my dad, leaving just the two of us in the living room. "I wasn't gonna forgive you, but for the baby's sake, I think we can give it a try. We'll live like a normal married couple, but we're not getting a license." I could see Arya's brain short-circuit for a second. "Why? I'm afraid you'll hit me." I said it calmly. "We can get a prenup for our assets, but if you hit me after we're married, that's domestic abuse, and it'll be hard for me to protect myself." Arya didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "What are you thinking? I'm not a violent person." "Hard to say," I said, feigning disbelief. "Without a marriage license, if she hit me, it would be assault. If she hit me hard enough, it would be attempted murder. Our families are equally powerful, so I wasn't afraid of her using her influence to pressure me. So, do you agree or not?" "Okay." Arya agreed with a helpless sigh. "Can I take you home now?" I nodded. Mission accomplished. Pushing it any further would be inappropriate. That night, I said goodbye to my parents and left with Arya. I never expected her pregnancy to be so difficult. Morning sickness, leg cramps, swelling. The worst part was how it affected her mood. She couldn't control when she laughed or cried. She ran me so ragged I lost weight. Or so my mom said. The day our baby was born, when I heard that both mother and daughter were safe, I burst into tears on the spot. What was even funnier was that she had no postpartum issues at all. I, on the other hand, got depression. One night, I woke up from another anxiety-fueled nightmare and sat on the edge of the bed, unable to fall back asleep. Arya sensed my movement and expertly got up to get me water and my medication, gently coaxing me to take it. During the day, she went with me to see a therapist. For the first 2 months, we were inseparable. I found it funny, but my heart melted. Later, we named our baby Hope. May all her wishes come true. Tomorrow is another day.